In recent years, Jackie and Thomas Hawk have been living the dream. They worked hard to achieve this. Both of them always saved and invested a lot of money, and with success. In their early 50s, Jackie and Thomas were able to retire. Thomas used his savings to buy a boat, which he named the Well-Deserved. After several years in the military and working as a probation officer, his everyday life is now solely defined by the sea and the sun. For 2 years, he and Jackie have been living on this boat, so to speak. The two of them sail along the California coast to Mexico, swim with dolphins and whales, and see the most beautiful beaches in America. The Well-Deserved has given the Hawks a wonderful life at sea. But the Well-Deserved will also be the place where they both die. There is probably little that Jackie and Thomas Hawk would trade their life on the Well-Deserved for. But there is one thing: their family. And in 2004, the two received the best news they've had in a long time. They are going to be grandparents for the first time. Their son, Matt, and his wife are expecting a baby. Thomas, known as Tom, has 2 adult sons from his first marriage. After the divorce, he raised the boys on his own until Jackie came into his life. The two met in the 1980s. Jackie also had a previous marriage. Her first husband died in a tragic motorcycle accident. Life had certainly not always been fair to Tom and Jackie up to that point. But when the two found each other, it was true love for both of them. Jackie took on the role of mother to Tom's sons Matt and Ryan and accompanied them as they grew up. For the boys, Jackie is their mom. And Jackie herself loves Matt and Ryan as if they were her own children. The 4 of them are simply a family, and there is no coming between them. And the fact that Matt is now going to be a father himself is, of course, incredibly exciting for the Hawks. They want to be there for their family. That's why they decide to close the chapter on Well-Deserved. It's not an easy step, of course. The boat holds many memories, and the 2 of them will probably never be able to live that kind of lifestyle again if they draw a line under it now. But you know the old saying, you should quit while you're ahead. Tom bought the Well-Deserved 2 years earlier for $300,000. After that, he and Jackie completely refitted the boat with the latest technology. The Hawks do the math. If they sell the boat for a good price, they can use the proceeds to buy a house near their son and his family. And that's a fair deal for both of them. When their grandson is born and Tom and Jackie spend time with them, they are certain. This is to be their new everyday life, close to their family, where they can help their son and his wife and be near their grandson. On November 12th, 2004, Jackie and Tom set sail for the last time. A little farewell trip with the Well-Deserved. From the coast off California, they set sail for Santa Catalina Island. A few friends are also on board, celebrating the Well-Deserved's farewell together with Tom and Jackie. By this time, buyers for the boat have already been found. A couple responded to their ad in a trade magazine. At first, Jackie and Tom were a little cautious. That's understandable, after all. It's several $100,000 and the boat that has been their home for 2 years. But after a first personal meeting with the 2 buyers, the matter was settled. The buyers brought their little baby with them, and Tom and Jackie were blown away by the little family. Saying goodbye to the boat is easier for the 2 of them knowing that the Well-Deserved is in good hands. So, on November 12th, Tom and Jackie set sail on the Well-Deserved for the last time. And after that, they are never seen again. It is November 2004. Most people already have cell phones, but no one is actually available all the time. Especially not Tom and Jackie, who until recently had a very spontaneous and free lifestyle on the Well-Deserved. But when the couple doesn't get in touch for a few days and can't be reached, their sons become uneasy. After all, Tom and Jackie had been visiting more often than usual to see their grandson, and the sale of the boat should have been completed long ago. Tom's brother Jim hasn't heard from them in a long time either. In consultation with Matt and Ryan, Jim therefore drives to Newport with a friend. That's where the Well-Deserved was last anchored. Even though the boat has been sold, as far as the family knows, that's the last clue they have. As expected, there is no sign of Tom and Jackie at the harbor. But the Well-Deserved is still in the harbor. And Tom's brother Jim immediately notices something about the boat. The Well-Deserved is a complete mess. As a layman, you might not have noticed all this right away. But Matt and Ryan's uncle knows a thing or two about boats, and he is certain that Tom would never have left the boat in this condition. The dinghy is attached rather amateurishly. The motor is hanging in the water. Several tarpaulins are missing from the deck. A towel is hanging out of one of the portholes. Jim therefore leaves a note on the deck of the Well-Deserved. He hopes that the buyer of the boat might come back and then contact him. And sure enough, Jim receives a call a short time later. A young woman named Jennifer Deleon answers. She and her husband Skylar are the buyers of the boat. But Jennifer doesn't have much information to share. She and Skylar met with Tom and Jackie on November 15th as agreed to complete the purchase. They paid the agreed price in cash, and the Hawks then set off. Tom and Jackie had casually mentioned that they wanted to go to Mexico. This sets off alarm bells for the family. Not knowing what else to do, Tom and Jackie's relatives report them missing to the police. The buyers of the boat, Jennifer and Skylar Deleon, are parents to a daughter and are expecting their second child in 2004. Jennifer works as a hairdresser and is the sole breadwinner of the family. Skylar was an actor as a child, but never made it past a role as an extra on Power Rangers. He tells everyone he meets that he had a big role in the series, but in reality, he was only seen walking in the background in 3 episodes. The two live in a converted garage behind Jennifer's parents' house. If you're wondering how the two of them can afford a yacht as lavish as the Well-Deserved, so are the police. When Jackie and Thomas's family files a missing persons report and mentions the sale of the boat to Skylar and Jennifer, the investigators quickly become suspicious. But first, they need to secure evidence on board the Well-Deserved. There, they quickly find a receipt from the Target supermarket chain. The receipt lists garbage bags, bleach, and a medication, an antacid called Tums. For the investigators, the matter is as ominous as it is clear. These are the purchases of a murderer. Garbage bags to dispose of evidence, bleach to clean the crime scene, and an antacid to prevent a guilty conscience from affecting the stomach. You're probably already sure who made this purchase at Target. But you're wrong. The police are able to locate and contact the Target store. Fortunately, they are in time, as the surveillance camera footage from that day has not yet been deleted. However, the footage does not show Skylar or Jennifer, but a slightly older man in a black shirt and a white baseball cap. His name is Steve Henderson. He is Jennifer's father. When confronted with the footage by the police, he immediately has an explanation ready. He, Jennifer, and Skylar had been helping to clean a church in the neighborhood. He had bought the items for this purpose. One of the investigators later says that this statement about the church reassured him greatly. Or, as he himself put it, "When I saw that the family was volunteering at a church, it reassured me a little, and I thought, okay, everything will be fine. The Hawks are fine." This feeling was probably further fueled by the fact that Skylar and Jennifer also appear very concerned about Tom and Jackie. They cooperate with the investigators and help where they can. Skylar and Jennifer explain that they met with the Hawks on November 15th as agreed and brought the agreed purchase price in cash. The parties met in a parking lot near where the yacht was moored. In addition to the contracting parties, Skylar and Jennifer's young daughter, the notary public in charge, and a Mexican friend named Alonso were also present. The deal went smoothly, and Jackie and Tom got into their Honda and drove away. In this context, the Deleons present the purchase agreement they concluded with the Hawks. It looks genuine. Signatures, certification by a notary, and fingerprints from Tom and Jackie are on the paper. What's more, Skylar even incriminates himself in parts. He is apparently so honest that he admits to the police that he used dirty money to buy the boat. The cash he and Jennifer used to pay for it came from drug deals. It's a dark part of his past, but he wanted to use the money to build a good life for his children now. Skylar and Jennifer's disarming honesty is helpful to the investigators, but it also leads the police to a dead end. All this is taking far too long for Jackie and Tom's sons. When their parents have been missing for a whole month, they decide to go to the press, and with success. A couple from Mexico hears about the missing Hawk couple in the media and contacts the police. The couple claim to have seen Jackie and Tom's car recently in the Mexican city of San Miguel. The police arrange for the whole thing to be checked out. And sure enough, the Honda CR-V is parked next to a mobile home, i.e., a transportable living unit. The investigators naturally knock on the door to ask how the car of a missing couple ended up in a front yard in Mexico. The resident says he has no idea who the two owners of the car are. He says he got the car from a friend in the US, a man named Skylar Deleon. So much for the idea that people who are involved in the church community have nothing to hide. On December 17, 2004, Skylar is arrested in the US, initially for money laundering. Investigators are working flat out to put together an indictment, because now they are certain that Jackie and Tom Hawks are no longer alive and that Skylar and his partner Jennifer are responsible. But even though the two are now in a real bind, Jennifer stands by Skylar. She adamantly claims that he is innocent and that it is all a huge misunderstanding. She even goes so far as to reject an offer of immunity in exchange for information about the crime. Either she is consciously playing a high-stakes game of poker, or she is certain that she and Skylar will not be prosecuted for the disappearance of Jackie and Tom. But the police are now finally much more cautious about the two of them. The suspicion against them only grows stronger when electronic devices belonging to the Hawks are found during a house search. And then there is a very interesting business card in the Deleons' house. It leads to a man who had his throat cut in Mexico the year before. The business card found in the Deleons' apartment belongs to Detective Bahina. He works for both the US and Mexican police forces. In 2004, he's working on a murder case from the previous year that is causing him and his colleagues a lot of headaches. The murder of a man named John Jarvin. The American was found in Mexico in 2003 with his throat slit. He had previously traveled to Mexico for a business opportunity. The whole thing was as vague as it sounds. A friend of John's had received $50,000 from him to set up a business with him. The plan was to get things rolling in Mexico. That's why John traveled there with his buddy. And that buddy, as you might have guessed, is Skylar Deleon. Skylar and John had met, appropriately enough, in prison, when Skylar was serving time for robbery. In any case, only Skylar returned alive from the trip to Mexico. Apparently, there was no suspicion of him being involved in the crime. He had the business card of the detective who investigated John's murder, but apparently he never had to answer for much. It was only after the Hawks couple disappeared following contact with Skylar that reasonable suspicion arose that he might also have been involved in John Jarvin's murder. Especially since there was never any alleged business in Mexico. Skylar simply took $50,000 from John. And shortly afterwards, John was murdered. If you've seen a lot of Insolito's videos, you've probably noticed something. Namely, that there were witnesses to the last contact between the Deleons and the Hawks. Let's leave Skylar and Jennifer's little daughter out of it for now. But then there's still the Deleon's friend and the notary public in charge. And at least the notary public should be able to confirm impartially that the deal went smoothly. And that's exactly what she does. In several interviews, Kathleen Harris repeats her statements exactly. Everything fits together. Until something changes. Under pressure from the investigators, Kathleen Harris finally breaks down. She admits that she accepted a bribe to lie during her interrogation. She admits that she was not present at the handover on November 15th. What's more, she never met Tom and Jackie Hawks at all. The Deleons came to her days later and asked her to issue the notarized certification of the boat sale retroactively. In return, they gave Kathleen an undisclosed amount of cash, and Kathleen agreed to the deal. She even went so far as to lie to the police several times. At least she finally came clean with the truth, so it is now clear that the alleged unspectacular meeting between the Deleons and the Hawks definitely did not take place. With Kathleen's incriminating statement, the police can also crack Alonzo, Skylar's buddy. Alonzo also met Skylar in prison. Paradoxically, however, Alonzo was not an inmate, but a guard. And while Kathleen Harris has nothing to do with the crime, and only, in quotation marks, took bribes and lied, the situation is quite different for Alonzo. He is deeply involved in the case. And for the first time, he provides real insight into what might have happened on board the Well-Deserved. Alonzo claims that Skylar described himself as a contract killer. He claimed to have been hired to kill Jackie and Tom Hawks. That's a lie. Skylar is not a contract killer. The idea to murder the couple came solely from him. Of course, we don't know whether Alonzo knew this or really believed the story about the contract killing. In any case, Alonzo says that Skylar asked Jackie and Tom for a test drive of the boat before the sale went through. Jackie and Tom agreed. So the Well-Deserved set sail on November 15th. Tom and Jackie, Skylar, Alonzo, and another man named John Kennedy. Kennedy is part of a California gang called the Insane Crips and has been arrested 20 times in his life. Skylar introduces him to the Hawks as his tax advisor. What Alonzo says happened during this supposed test drive is gruesome. According to his statement, Skylar and Kennedy overpowered Tom Hawks together, while Alonzo took care of Jackie. They handcuffed both of them and taped their eyes and mouths shut. The criminals briefly loosened the restraints and lifted the tape over their eyes a little to force the Hawks to sign the prepared purchase agreement. After the forced signature, Alonzo and Kennedy tied Tom and Jackie together, while Skylar steered the Well-Deserved to a deep spot in the water. There, Tom and Jackie were tied to one of the boat's anchors. Skylar then threw this anchor overboard. Tom and Jackie thus drowned together in agony and fully conscious. This statement is sufficient to charge Alonzo himself, as well as John Kennedy and Skylar Deleon, with murder. Skylar's girlfriend Jennifer is also arrested. According to Alonzo's statements, she was not on board the Well-Deserved, but she did make several phone calls to Skylar on November 15th, just like on the day John Jarvie was murdered in Mexico a year earlier. The police are now certain that Skylar is also responsible for this and that his wife Jennifer knew about everything and was even involved in the planning. When the trial comes around, Alonzo repeats his statement in court. This is part of a deal with the prosecution. His statements have been instrumental in solving the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks and John Jarvie. He voluntarily pleads guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter and is sentenced to 20 years and 4 months in prison. He should therefore be free again at the time of this recording or will be released shortly.
Skylar approaches me with this plan he has. He was going to do something that, was going to make some money. So he offers me to help. The plan is that we were supposed to basically kidnap them and take them out to sea and toss them overboard.
Although Jennifer was not physically on board the boat, investigators are certain that she was there in spirit. She is therefore sentenced to life imprisonment for the murders of Tom and Jackie. Her husband Skylar receives an even harsher sentence for the murders of Tom and Jackie and the murder of John Jarvie. the death penalty. His accomplice, John Kennedy, also receives the death penalty. Both are still on death row today, awaiting execution. Although Jennifer's father, Steve Henderson, was proven to have been on the boat, or at least to have brought things there, he was not charged or convicted in connection with the case. Notary Kathleen Harris also got off scot-free. She is now reportedly no longer working as a notary. That brings us to the end of today's video. A really shocking case, especially when you see Tom and Jackie looking so happy in these video recordings. There is still speculation about the exact motive behind the murder of the two. It's logical that greed played a role. After all, the well-deserved was worth a lot of money. Some people speculate that Skylar wanted the money for a very specific reason: to finance gender reassignment surgery. She now lives on death row as a woman. However, it is questionable whether that was really the reason. After all, her then-wife Jennifer was also involved in the matter. The two are now divorced. It is much more likely that it was simply a matter of money. The couple had high debts, and the fact that Tom and Jackie were killed so painfully for that reason alone makes it almost worse. Feel free to share your thoughts on the case in the comments. I was particularly surprised, even shocked, that neither Steve Henderson nor Kathleen Harris were prosecuted. Okay, in the case of Jennifer's father, one could argue that he might not have known why his daughter needed bleach and garbage bags on board her new boat. But Kathleen Harris not only forged the notarized certification, she also lied to the police several times. Even though she ultimately told the truth and thus initiated the investigation, these are two pretty serious offenses. What do you think? I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on this. By the way, you can also support the channel in a very simple way. Any interaction increases the likelihood that it will be suggested to people who haven't subscribed to Insolito yet. Other than that, there's not much else to say. I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching the video. I hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao everyone.